You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
In an extremely rare incident, India on 9th March, quote-unquote, accidentally fired a missile into Pakistan airspace, raising questions immediately about the safety mechanism of such an armament. India, in its statement on 11th March, expressed deep regret over the incident and that a quote-unquote technical malfunction led to the accidental firing of a missile. This statement, however, came 2 days after the incident, and also a day after a statement from Pakistan's Major General Babar Iftikhar. The Pakistani statement read that such quote-unquote irresponsible incidents reflected India's quote-unquote disregard for air safety and callousness towards regional peace and stability. Now, neither country has so far spelled out what kind of missile was used. The missile in question travelled a total of about 200 kilometers, of which 124 kilometers was in the Pakistani airspace, at an altitude of 40,000 feet and at a speed of 2.5 to 3 times the speed of sound. Based on this information, experts speculate that the missile is probably a BrahMos, one of India's top cruise missiles. Fortunately, the missile was not armed and did not cause any casualties. But a lot of us must be thinking the same question. How can an accident like this happen? What is the protocol when missile tests like these take place? To help answer these questions, we spoke to Kartik Bomakanti, a fellow at the Observer Research Foundation specializing in space military issues. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you, and I'm your host, Himmat. Well, Kartik, thank you so much for coming on the Big Story podcast. It's a pleasure talking to you, and also thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, Kartik, my first question was that, of course, this is a very rare event as well, that we, as India also, or any country, will not just suddenly get up and fire a missile into an enemy territory or a neighboring territory, that too. So I want to know if you can help us understand what are the protocols normally followed when tests like these occur. Like, do we have to inform our neighbors as well, in this case Pakistan or anyone else, about tests like these in advance? Like, what kind of intel do we normally share regarding it?
No, we do have a pre-notification agreement with the Pakistanis on ballistic missile tests. And this pre-notification agreement was concluded way back in the 2000s itself, around 2004, 2005. And by and large, what it requires is that ballistic missile flight tests cannot be conducted very close to the land boundaries between the two countries. That is something that is required on the part of both sides. So both sides, before they conduct a test, have to notify the other side that they will be conducting a test regardless of where it's being conducted. Most of our tests are conducted on the East Coast. We generally do not conduct tests on the western part of the country or the west coast of India. This particular test, of course, was not a ballistic missile test. If it was indeed a test, it was a cruise missile test. We do not have any agreement with the Pakistanis on pre-notification with regard to cruise missile tests. Cruise missiles, of course, are of course fly on a more depressed trajectory. They also, and their trajectory can be altered also in flight. And they also, this particular missile that we launched, this one, the BrahMos, flies at supersonic speeds. So it is hard to detect. So it has a very low radar cross section. So as a result of that, what happens is that it becomes very, very difficult to detect, and that is also one of the reasons why this particular launch comes across as very, very serious and dangerous.
So I want to know, neither country has spelled out which kind of missile is it right now. So why are experts also saying that this may be the BrahMos missile? Is it because of the distance it traveled or the speed it traveled?
Yeah, one reason is, of course, the speed it traveled. The other thing is that there have been conflicting reports about whether it was actually tracked by the Pakistanis themselves. There is a view that it's very, very difficult to track a missile that is flying at Mach 3, that is 3 times the speed of sound. Even perhaps Indian radar did not pick up as it was exiting Indian airspace, radar pick up the flight path and of this particular missile. But whatever it be, the thing is that the Pakistanis have put out statements. Initially, one part of the statement was that they actually picked up the trajectory and they knew where it was flying. It was flying through Indian airspace and it was headed towards the Mahajan ranges. And then suddenly it took a sharp turn and moved into Pakistani airspace, and which actually headed right into Pakistani airspace. And flew almost 120 kilometers inside Pakistani airspace through civilian airspace. Now, this is where it becomes very serious, because if the flight path was altered mid-flight, then there is the possibility of manipulation. There is the possibility of jamming, manipulation. In fact, I have written a paper about this in the past. There are third countries that can also do it. Not just Pakistanis being able to do it, but it's possible countries like China can do it. Even the United States have the capacity to actually interfere with the performance, the in-flight performance of a cruise missile. That is because they have great navigation satellite capabilities, and they are able to alter, because the BrahMos itself is a satellite-guided missile. And so they are able to alter the trajectory of the flight path. So you never know. There could be very much a sabotage, but of course that is pending an investigation. We will not know exactly how this flight path of this particular missile changed so suddenly and so rapidly.
Okay, so let's just, for instance, say or agree that it is the BrahMos missile. What do we know about the BrahMos missile? Of course, this has been in operation for quite a few years with the Indian Army and the Air Force as well. But is it susceptible for to jamming as well? I'm sure that over the years people have been aware about its capabilities or vulnerabilities.
It could be. They could be aware of it, or it could be some other technical glitch that has caused the missile to change course. But pending an outcome or detailed, because see, missiles like this have mechanical and electronic locks. And electronic locks also should serve as a check in flight, at least, on not changing course, or even if they suddenly change course, to be able to terminate the missile itself in flight. Now, the problem is that nothing of that sort happened. Either operators at one end, at India's end, lost control of the missile after it changed course and suddenly changed course. And the Pakistanis in turn actually never picked it up. And it flew through Pakistani's airspace, and it was detected only when it landed. Actually, it blew up. Only then did it come to light. Perhaps that was one of the factors. But other factors that could be that some third country has interfered, that's also possible. You can never rule it out. Until you conduct a thorough investigation, nothing can happen. But if it is a problem with the missile itself, that there is something problematic organically with the missile and its technical performance and its technical features, then this is a serious issue, because one, we do not have control of our own missiles if they are launched in an actual war. Okay, and we want to hit targets that we should be hitting, but we won't be able to hit. The other factor is that it also becomes a setback, because we're trying to export this missile. As you know, there is an effort to sell it to the Philippines right now. The Philippines has expressed interest in buying it, but the BrahMos itself is actually part of an Indo-Russian joint venture, which was launched in 2004 between and that is known as the BrahMos Corporation, which oversees the development of the missile and all the R&D related to the missile. It is a variant of a ship-based missile developed by the Russians, and the Russians called Yukon, and we have improved on it. And there are multiple variants of them. There is a sea-based that is that can be launched from surface vessels, and that can be launched from the air, from a Sukhoi 30, and that can also be launched from the ground. from ground launch platforms.
Okay.
So it is a very versatile missile, and it has also been tested quite extensively. That is why it comes as a surprise and quite a shock that it has performed this way, or this is, or if there is a mechanical glitch. I mean, it's serious development.
Okay. To what extent is human error could be a reason for this kind of incidents? Like, have we had incidents before where like human error has been, like, could it be as simple as someone accidentally clicking a button, Karthik? Like, is that possible?
There must be something. Yeah, if it is human error, then it is serious, either an accident, either it would be very, very difficult to fathom how it could be, because all the services, and in this case, specifically the IAF, because this particular missile was launched by the IAF, what has happened is that the human operator, even if he or she made a mistake, it would be a glaring error, because officers are put through extensive training on how to operate this particular missile from the time of launch. All the fail-safe mechanisms, all the protocols, all the sequence of steps that you've got to go through to actually launch this missile. To have pressed something accidentally is a serious error. And if that is going to be the case, then you would have to seriously investigate and conduct a thorough investigation of all the officers involved. In particular, with this launch, and generally across the board, across all our BrahMos missile capabilities and even ballistic missile capabilities. All the officers will have to be tracked, will have to be put through rigorous screening again, and will have to be thoroughly interrogated. Because what will happen is, if something like this happens again, and say a ballistic missile, then that is even more serious. Thankfully, this missile was not armed, so we were lucky that the Pakistanis did not respond. And it's also possible, as I said earlier, the Pakistanis did not respond because they couldn't themselves track it fully, and until it was actually too late. So, but whatever it be, it's serious, and they will have to carry out a thorough investigation if it is a human error. And if that is the consequence, they will have to make sure that heads roll as well. They'll have to fire people.
Why not self-destruct the missile? Like, once we have known that this is an accidental launch, it's of course not like a planned exercise as such. Like, does the BrahMos not have that kind of capability of self-destructing?
Yeah.
Or remote?
Yeah. But the thing is that I'm not too sure what exactly. Either, see, if they can alter the trajectory, if they can also make it terminate, why didn't the human operators at the command center not do that? That is one question that you flagged, which is pregnant in your question, actually. And why did they terminate it once it changed course? The thing is that either they lost control of it, even despite their best of efforts to terminate it, and that may be one explanation. So if that is the case, then it is very, very serious, both at the command end and at the in-flight end of the missile. The internal mechanics of the missile itself, which made it impervious to any commands being given by the human operators to try and terminate the flight. So I think there must be something, unless speaking now would be I would be only speculating, but it is serious. So that is one thing that may have just failed. Either they have that safety protocol mechanism built into the missile, but it did not work, or it malfunctioned. So it's something that has to be looked at carefully.
Okay. And my last question, Karthik, was that does this event also raise questions about India's ability to have such technologies or operate such technologies? Like, as you mentioned, that we're planning to sell this missile as well, and we are in midst of a deal with the Philippines as well. So does this now raise questions about India's ability to, of course, operate this missile safely and also sell it? Because India, I think, is known as a country who is very secure and confident about its armament. We're not known to be very haphazard as such with our technologies, or especially military technologies. So does this raise serious questions about India now in the global geopolitical sphere?
Yeah, it will. It will raise questions, but I do believe that you shouldn't take this one-off incident as meaning that somehow our missile capabilities are inadequate or they have been completely that we should not repose faith in them.
Yeah.
The greater test is what we do now. How quickly we are able to rectify this problem, apportion responsibility, and fix the problem, identify the problem accurately, and not try and pass the blame onto anyone. If we do that well, and we are able to rectify the problem, that if it's a technical glitch, it is a setback as far as our exports are concerned. But I do believe it can be overcome.
Yeah.
If we are able to thoroughly explain that what went wrong and that we fixed it. So that gives confidence in any buyer, any potential buyer, future buyer also. And that also gives confidence to our services, because ultimately even our services operate this missile. Tomorrow the Navy is going to ask questions about it. Even the Army will ask questions about it, because that will be all our systems will be put under the scanner and say, look, guys, what has gone wrong? I mean, there's something has gone wrong. So within the hierarchy of the armed services, within the technical establishment, especially the DRDO and also BrahMos Corporation, they will have to look at this very, very carefully, and they might have to even call on the Russians to help them identify, because this is a joint venture with the Russians. Now, Russia is just preoccupied with this war in Ukraine right now, but they will have to dispatch some technical experts to see where things went wrong. So that is something that will have to be probed and examined carefully.
Okay. Well, Karthik, that was the end of my questions as well. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast and helping us understand this entire incident in better clarity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
If you liked listening to this episode, please subscribe to The Big Story for episodic updates. We're available on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website, and for any feedback, please shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.